Okay, welcome back. This is part 4 of the tiny room simulator. Let's just see where we were last week and then we'll move from there. Okay, so we have our little bed. We can move it around. We can't place it in the walls. We can place it in the room. We can right click to pick it up. We can middle click to delete it. We can also delete it while we have it selected. So let's progress forward. So the next step here would be to start setting up some sort of layer structure for the physics, so we can drop objects on specific objects and other objects we don't necessarily want to put it. Like we want to put a TV on a TV stand or a table or something, but we don't necessarily put the TV on the floor. And that's the kind of stuff we want to start looking at today. And then towards the end of the video, we want to add functionality for allowing you to create some sort of object like a TV or a light or a radio that plays a sound, or it comes to life when you click on a button and activate it. So let's get that going. So first we're going to start by replacing the way we're doing layers. So we're going to go to our prefab. We only currently have one for the code and one for the base object. So we're going to update this base object with all the variables that are required. So we're going to start by, in the object variables, we're going to add call it this object layer. Now this isn't the layer of the object that it's on, but the layer that it's looking for to be placed on. So this is going to be a layer mask, and by default let's just set it to floor. So that is the floor. So all objects by default should be looking for the floor. We'll change this on an object by object basis. Okay, so let's do that. So we've got the object layer, and in the scene variables we're going to add we delete it because apparently I had it. Let's add this as the current layer that we are raycasting to. So current layer needs to be a layer mask, and that one can be left as nothing. We are going to update that layer mask dynamically in code at runtime. Okay, so we've created a object layer. We also created a current layer, and we're just going to go into our tiny room manager, and we're going to do a few things. So down here where we're moving to spawn, we're going to go here and we're going to remove this default layer mask literal, and we're going to use our current layer as the new layer mask. So when we update this one, when we're moving the object, it will only move based on the current layer that we are on. So this is what we want to do. We also want to do something. When we right click to pick up the object, we want to also set the current layer. So hold down Alt and left click and drag the variable in. We want to set the current layer to be equivalent to this. Actually, no, we will do that in the object. Don't even worry about that. We are overthinking this. I think that's it. This should now work. We have to do a little bit of code in the actual prefab. So let's go back to the prefab, go into the flow graph here, and let me delete this because I clearly have this still. We're going to add a start node. We're going to drag out, and we're going to go to the scene variable, hold down Alt and drag in the current layer. So my thinking was we do it in the object. It's so much easier. So we're going to grab the current layer scene variable, and we're going to set it to the object scene variable like that. So we send the layer to the raycast for, well, hold on. We set the current layer to object layer. There we go. That's what we're doing there at the start when the object gets instantiated. We're going to duplicate these two nodes, and we're going to go where we pick up the object. So when we select the object, we want to once again assign the current layer to match the object layer, so that when we pick up the object, we want to look for where we should be moving the object to. So that's what we're doing here. We're just saying, by the way, the object layer needs to tell the current layer that you're now looking for the floor, or you're looking for a surface to place objects on. Whatever it is, you need to find the correct layer to do it. Okay, so let's test if this works by default. So I'm going to start the game, and I'm going to select the scene variables tab when it's started. I'm going to look at currently the current layer is set to nothing. When I click on bed, it should be set to floor because it's looking for the floor. When I drop it, it's fine, and if I were to have another object, it would update that layer. So we know that this code as it stands is working. So now we've set up our system to work with layers. Let's progressively add different objects that are on different layers so we can test to see if our functionality works. So I'm going to select my default bed base, and I'm going to add a few variables that I'm going to need later on. So I'm going to just add it now so that it exists in all of the objects. So the first one is going to be a object UI variable, and this is going to be a game object. So an object UI variable, which we're going to enable and disable a UI. That's if the object's got UI, we can use this. The next one is going to be a object to interact with. I know it's long, so object to interact with. This is going to be the object we want to be able to turn on and off or interact with. That's also going to be a game object. Some of these will break, so don't worry about it. We'll change it based on each of the prefabs. So we've got the UI that has to be enabled and disabled, the object that we're going to interact with, and then two more things. We need to have a button that we interact with, so an interact button, and that's going to be a button. Now, for those of you using Bolt, make sure, depending on the bolt you're using, make sure that it's Bolt, and in the brackets it says in Unity engine.ui. Make sure that that is the button that you're selecting. And the next one is going to be button exit, so we can exit interacting with the object or changing the object. Again, it's going to be button, but again we're going to have to do this over again, so don't worry about it. So we've just added four new variables. The UI object that we want to interact with, the object that we want to interact with, the button that's going to turn the object on and off, whether it's a TV, turns the TV on, turns the TV off, and the last one is to exit all this interaction. That is what we've done on this base object. So all we need to do now, oh crap, I did that in the scene variables, that sucks. Okay, let's do all of that again. Remove them from the scenes variable. Don't make the mistake that I just made. That was so dumb. So go to the Object tab and let's do that again. So I'm going to say Object UI. It's going to be a game object. The next one is going to be Interact Object. Let's just call it that. Let's shorten this one for typing purposes. Can I spell it correctly in the first place? Interact Object. There we go. That's also going to be a game object. The next one's going to be a interact button. That's going to be a button. The next one's going to be an exit button. That also needs to be a button. So now it's in the correct place. There we go, finally. We have our moments. So now all the objects will have all of these variables available for us to use them when needed. So I'm going to select the bed double base. I'm going to duplicate that object and I'm going to rename it to, let's call this TV unit base. TV unit base. So this is going to be my TV unit. I'm going to double click to open it and I'm going to remove all of these models. We do not need those models because we're going to go to our models, assets. I'm going to look for a television cabinet. Television cabinet. I'm going to drag that in. Make this smaller so we can see it. And the unit again, like if you've been following this series, it's from Kenny.nl. Some really amazing models, but the scale of them are a little bit big. They're 10 times too big. So I'm going to make this 0.1 in the X, 0.1 in the Y, and 0.1 in the Z. So it's a lot smaller. I'm going to go into the top view. I'm going to click the cube in the top right to go into orthographic view. I'm going to move the object to be centered in the prefab. First I need to make sure if the prefab is zeroed out. Yes. So this object is now relatively center in the prefab. I'm going to rename this base object. So rename it to original because this is the original model with all of the original materials. And then I'm going to go to my TV unit base, open up the box collider and click edit. I'm going to go into my front view and then I'm just going to make sure I edit my collider to encompass or encapsulate the model, with the exception of, remember what we did in the previous video where we're keeping it a little bit off the ground so we don't get any weird trigger overlaps that tell us we can't place the object. Then I'm going to go to the right side, make it smaller that way. Once you're done, click on the little cube in the top right to go back in 3D view, press F to zoom out, and we are good to go. So all we need to do now is duplicate this base model, turn off the original one, rename the second one to, let's call it overlapped, or overlapped, there we go. And I'm going to go to my materials and select my overlapped material. There we go. So now this object is overlapped. I'm going to duplicate this one and turn the original one off and call this one not overlapped. I know my naming is brilliant, thanks. Sorry about that, it's what I can think of. Apply the green material, the not overlapped material to that, and then we're going to disable that object as well. So now this is an object I want to be able to place things on. So I'm going to go to where the layer is currently set to object. I'm going to go to add layer, and I'm going to clear these out just so we have it. So we have floor and we have object, or objects. Let me just make it object. There we go. So we need to add a layer to search for objects we can put onto a surface of an object. So let's call this one placeable. I can't think of any other name really. I've been struggling with the name of this layer. So this is an object that you can place things on, so it's placeable. Okay, so we have the layer. We're going to assign it to the TV unit as placeable. We're going to say no, this object only, because the children don't have colliders, so it would make no difference. It's only the parent that has a collider, so we just want to make sure that this one is set to the correct layer. Okay, so that's placeable. So all we need to do is make one more prefab just for the TV, but let's just check if this works, shall we, and see what the problem is. So the way we've set up the system is all I need to do is go ahead and duplicate the button, call this one TV unit, and we're just going to change move it a little bit down so it's not on top of the other button, and we're going to rename this one to, just call it TV unit. There we go. Okay, remember how we did this code? Very basic. We select the button, we go down to where the variables are, we change the object we want to instantiate. So not double bed double base, we want to change it to TV unit base. And I just want to show you where we're going to potentially hit a glitch, but I want to show you how it's broken so we can fix it. So we can place a bed, we can place a TV unit, but we can't, this is glitch number one, we have forgotten, let's open up the TV unit, to assign the new models to the variables we have here. So let's go say original, goes to the original variable, overlapped goes to the overlapped variable, and the not overlapped goes to the not overlapped variable. So that will resolve that issue. Okay, so now we can try it again. TV unit, there's my TV unit. I can place it, but when I right click it, I can pick it up. Nice. Place it, right click, middle click to delete it. So the TV unit is working as expected. The reason it's working is probably I have an idea that I have overlooked something. So if yours cannot pick the object up, go to your Tiny Room Manager, come to where we right click to select it, and let's clear this out. You should have object selected by default. Let's add placeable as another layer to check for when we're trying to pick objects up. So make sure that whatever layer we keep adding to this, we want to keep making sure that we are checking for that layer inside of the code. Okay, so let's try this again. I can drop the TV unit, I can pick it up, I can rotate it, I can drop it. So it's working the way it's supposed to. That's very good. Okay, so let's duplicate the TV unit, prefab. Let's call this one TV base. So this is going to be the TV prefab. I'm going to open up that prefab, and we're going to again delete all the models. We do not need them. And I'm going to go into my assets. I'm going to type in television, And I like the old one, so I'm gonna stick with the old television. There's this vintage television here. I'm gonna scale it down by 90%, 0.1 across the X, Y, and the Z. I'm again gonna go into my top view, orthographic, move the object across, move the object to the center-ish area, somewhere there. And I'm going to go to my parent and adjust the collider so that it matches the size of the physical object. Apologies for the birds outside. There we go. The collider should be kind of in a good place. Again, making sure that the bottom doesn't touch. And we're going to rename this base object to original. And while I'm at it, I'm just going to assign it to the variable before I forget. So assign original to original. I'm going to duplicate this object, turn the original one off, select this one and call this overlapped. I'm going to select the materials and I'm going to assign the overlapped material to the parent, to the object, so it assigns it to all the objects, the children. Now I'm going to duplicate that object one more time and hide the overlapped one and rename this new one to not overlapped and assign the not overlapped material to this object. And for the time being, I'm going to turn that off. Okay, so I'm going to turn the original TV on so we can see what we need to do to make this work. So I'm going to start by adding a light, a point light to the scene. And just make this gizmo a little bit smaller so it's not in our face. And if you don't see any lighting information on here, you just remember to go up here, turn the light bulb on so you can see it. I'm going to go into my front view and I'm going to move the light in position of where the screen would be. I'm going to move it a little bit forward. There we go. Now it's starting to look like light is emitting from the screen. Push a little bit forward. Now I'm looking at a few things. I don't want the range to be like 10 meters. I would like it maybe to be 2 meters from the TV out. I'm going to change the color. I never really like to use pure white as a light source, so I'm going to make it kind of a bluish color. Now let's just make it kind of the sickly green color. There we go. And I'm just going to put the intensity up, so from 1 to 2, just make it a lot brighter. So what this will look like when the TV's off, when the TV's on. Just kind of fakes the idea that this TV is turned on and glowing. Okay, so I'm going to leave the light on for now. We'll disable it in a little bit. And the last thing is, do I want to add shadows to this light? I'm going to say yes, and we're just going to go for soft shadows for now. And I'll talk about these settings when we actually talk about the quality that we're getting here. Look at how crappy the quality is here. We'll talk about that and fix all of that at the same time. So we'll talk about these settings in order to make the lighting quality better. So I'm going to right click and rename this light to TV light, just so that we have some naming convention going through so we can find things. Okay, so essentially I want each object to have its own little canvas that can be enabled or disabled based on when you click on it. So I'm going to add a UI button which automatically adds a canvas. I'm going to select the canvas and I'm going to rename this to Object UI. And I'm going to change the canvas scaler UI scale mode to scale with screen size. And then I'm just going to select the button. And looking at where my current buttons are, I'm just going to... Right now I'm going to put it at the bottom, but at the end of it, the ideal thing would have for the button to be above the item that you're interacting with. So I'm just going to put this button minus 100 to the left. And I'm going to change the name of the button. So this is going to be button interact. So we interact with the object using this button. I'm going to change the text. This one's going to say on, so we're going to turn the object on. Also going to change the scale of the font to about 22, and I'm going to make it bold italic. Okay, I'm going to duplicate this button and put it positive 100 in the X. You don't have to do this. I just like things to be kind of symmetrical. It's the OCD part of me. And I'm going to say this is the exit button. And I'm going to change the text to say exit. There we go. That's what it's going to look like. So we have our reference to the UI, and what's great is remember the variables we created earlier on. So I'm going to select my object, go to my object variables, and let's start looking down. Let's go look for object UI. Let's change that to a game object and assign the object UI to this. Interact object, change that to a game object and assign the TV light to the interact object. We have interact button. Remember I told you that it's because I think it's still currently in beta. Bolt does tend to forget variables unless you assign something to the variable straight away. So I'm going to add the interact button over here, and I'm going to choose button for the second line for the last variable and assign the exit button. So now all of the variables we created earlier on are now being used in this special case where we have a TV with a light and it turns on and all that stuff. Okay, so last thing to do to make this just to kind of, you know, make it a little bit more fancy is I'm going to add some audio. So I'm going to need an audio source on the TV base. So scroll all the way down in your inspector, type in audio source, and we're going to have an audio source. Think of an audio source as a way, it's almost like a speaker. It plays sound, and the camera has an audio listener. We think of it as a microphone. You can receive sounds, and the two together will allow us to hear the sound playing from this here. So I went online and just downloaded a audio sound that sounds like this. So it kind of sounds like a TV static. So I'm going to add that to my TV in the audio source. I'm going to drag that audio and add it towards the audio clip. The output we don't need. We're not doing an audio mixer right now. I do not want play on awake to be on because I want to tell it when to play, but I do want the audio to loop. When it gets to the end of the audio, I want it to go back to the beginning. And I'm just going to control the volume so it's not insane. So I'm going to make it 25% of the original audio levels. You're probably going to want to tweak this a lot more than that. So now we have audio, we have a UI element that's enabled and disabled. We have a light. So we're going to select these two objects and we're just going to turn them off by default. So your TV should look a little bit like this. And we're also turning the TV off, so the object is completely disabled. Okay, so let's go into the code. I just grabbed all the existing code from last week, put it into a new group and called it default functionality. Because all this other functionality we're going to add down here is separate for, it might or might not be used based on whether this object is special or just a kind of an object to fill space. So we're going to start by creating a custom event like we've done before. I'm going to call this one enable object UI. So enable object UI is going to be the name of this function. And when it gets called from the game manager, we're going to go to our object variables here. We're going to look for the object UI, drag that in. We're going to drag it off and say game object dot set active, because we want to enable this object. Currently it's invisible in the game, so we want to turn that on. So we want that to be turned on. So when we call this function, method, where we are going to say enable object UI. Okay, done. Just going to give this an interesting color, make it green, whatever it is. We're going to do the next one that does the opposite. So we're going to grab the exit button, and we're going to do an on button click. What that means is when the UI button gets clicked, and in particularly this UI button, when this UI button gets clicked, we're going to grab these two variables, duplicate them, plug them in here, and we're going to turn the UI off because we're now exiting the UI. So this one can be called the exact same thing. So we're going to say disable object UI. There we go. And I'm going to put them side by side because they both dealing with enabling and disabling that UI that we created, the one with the on button and the exit button. So that's all these two sections do. They just control whether the UI is active or inactive. So the next part is talking about actually doing something with the lights, turning the lights on and playing the sound. So we need to do that. So we're going to do it down here. We're going to grab our interact button because that's what that's going to do. We're going to do again an on button click. And when we do the on button click, I want to do a branch. And we could have an if statement here that says, is the light on or the object on, then turn it off. But what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to grab the interact object and I'm going to see if this object is active. So I'm going to drag off and type in gameObject.active, and we're looking for active self. So gameObject.active self. So all I'm going to say is if the game object that I'm interacting with is on, then please turn it off. If it's off, please turn it on. That's all we're going to do here. We're just checking to see if this object, the interact object, which is currently the light, if this object is on, like it is now, then turn it off. And if it's off, turn it on. That's all we're going to be doing here. So I'm going to duplicate this interact object. I'm going to put it between these two here. I'm going to drag off and say gameObject.setActive. Like that to the true. So if it's on, I want it to be off like it is right now. I'm going to duplicate this for the false, and I'm going to say if it's off, please turn it on. And I'm going to plug this into the self as well. So I'm just using the same variable just to save up on space and turning it on and turning it off. So if it's off, turn it on. If it's on, turn it off. That's all we're doing. So all that's left now is to go and type in audio source dot. In this case, we want to stop the audio. And if we start, we want to go audio source dot play audio. There we go. This should do the trick. I'm just going to drag it down like this just to kind of neaten it up a little bit. Probably just drag that there. Sorry. The group around it, and let's just say interact with object. That's what this does. It's essentially we're just interacting with the object. We're turning the audio on and turning on the light on the TV, and then turning the TV off and turning the audio off. Essentially is what we're doing here. Okay, so all that's left to make sure that this works is we actually have to, let me just move this down a little bit so people it's not confused where this code is in relation to the rest of it. Let's bring it down here. Is call this actual function called enable object UI. And we're going to do that from the actual player. So I'm going to copy this, let's save this, and we are going to make sure that this TV object, which I should not disable the parent, the TV object has its own new layer. So we're going to click on here, we're going to add a new layer, and we're going to call this one interactable. So this is going to be on an interactable layer. So if any object you want to be able to interact with will be on the interactable layer, so that when we go to the Tiny Room Manager, remember every time you add a new one, go to the right click, move to select place object and scene, and add interactable there. We still want to be able to select the object, so we need to be able to select it here. We're going to say when we click on here, so when we left click, so when I left click, I want to be able to select the object. So what I did from last week that's a little different, I just broke this into two branches. So the first one checks to see if we're placing, the second one checks to see if we're not overlapping. So I just broke that up for the next step now. So I'm going to drag out here, and actually we're just going to copy the code from up here. So we're going to go up here, we're going to copy the following code: camera.main, input mouse position, camera screen point to ray, the layer mask, the physics.raycast, the raycast collider, the gameObject.gameObject, set the current prefab here, and the branch here. We're going to duplicate that whole lot and bring it down here. I'm just going to make some space here because Serious overlap, serious overlap. There we go, and we're going to move it down here, and we're going to plug this into the false. So if we're not placing an object, please look for something that we're looking for. So in this case, we are going to clear out these layers, and we're only looking for interactable. So if I left click and we're not placing an object, please go through here, set the current object, and we're going to trigger custom event. I'm going to paste that event that I copied earlier on, and the function again is not in the manager, it's in this object here. So we're going to tell it to look inside of this object, and that's where you're going to find the function that we created to enable the UI. Remember, that's what that was for, enabling the UI. So this is where we should be selecting the object. At the same time, we're probably going to want to disable the UI of the other buttons while we're interacting with this object. So I'm going to go up here where we did disable the UI here. Actually, let's just grab this one. I'm going to grab this one. We're going to duplicate this and move it down here. We're going to plug it in here, and we're just going to set that to be false. Add a little comment group around this and say disable UI buttons. Something like that should be fine, because I think that one is okay. Disable UI buttons, because when we place it, we're going to re-enable them. So let's see how this works. Oops, added a group that I shouldn't have added. Let's see what happens here. So let's just see if everything works as expected. One more thing I want to do is, I forgot, is I actually want to tell the TV base in the layer object layer that I want to only be able to place it on a placeable object. So the TV will only be able to be placed on an object that is tagged as placeable, which, as we know, is the TV unit here. Do this, we can check this. I'm going to add a, oh, of course, sorry, let's add a button for this. So I'm going to duplicate this button, move it down, rename this one to just be TV, just remove unit after TV, and remember to change the object we're going to instantiate, and that should do it. Now we should be able to test it. So a lot of this is easy once it's set up. It's just tedious to do kind of some of the setup. So I'm going to add my TV unit here. I'm going to add my TV. Notice how the TV doesn't move anywhere but notice how it's not enabling and disabling that collision, the untrigger enter that. But let's just see, we can drop the object there. Should we have to left click? Notice how these buttons come up. We turn it on. Here the TV sound in the background. Turn it off and exit. Notice how these buttons haven't been grayed out. We need to be able to enable and disable those buttons when we exit that UI. So we'll need to go back to our prefab. Any of them, just go to the TV base. And from the earlier on where I actually pasted, actually it's gone. Son of a... Okay, so I'm going to quickly go to the game manager, and I'm going to grab this piece of code here where we enable the buttons. I'm going to go Control C, go to my TV base, go down to disable objects, UI objects, paste, and that means we want to re-enable all the other buttons. So we want to go in here and we want to re-enable the buttons. So let's double check something here, why we're not actually dropped, select object, dropped object, yes, we're saying yes, that's true, that's false, and that's the current layer. Okay, so I'm going to go and make sure that I've set up my TV with the correct variables. So I'm going to open this up and make sure that I've assigned Oh, I do not have the overlapped one for some reason because I forgot. And not overlapped needs to be not overlapped, and we should be good now. Okay, so let's see what happens now. I should be able to select the TV unit, drop it, select the TV, and notice how the TV is turning on and off. I'm able to drop it, I'm able to select it, turn the audio on, and take it. What I want to be able to do is I can select it, good. I'll be able to select the unit and any object that's on top of the flexible object should work. Like the TV should be top. So that's pretty much the last element of this exercise for today's video. We're going to, of course, we're going to go to the project. Again, game Tiny Room Manager, and we're going to, when we're actually placing the object here, at the end of here, all we're going to do is we're going to set the parent. So we're going to go, at the end here, we're going to type in transform.setParent. Now, if you're wondering where I'm at the move spawn object to in the level. I'm going to go here. I'm going to say, what object do I want to set the parent, set the parent to? It's going to be the self, and where is the parent that I'm getting it from? So who is the parent? It's this hit object. So I'm going to drag off here. I'm going to type in hit.collider. It's going to be raycast hit.collider. And because the collider is a component, you need to actually get the game object that's attached to this component. So I'm going to type in, drag out and type in game object.game object. And that is going to be the new parent. There we go. And that will now add the functionality that we need for it to be able to get parented to each other so we can move the objects around. Okay, I think that's it for this lesson, but let me just double check if everything is working. Apologies, throat is a little bit heavy, so I'm going to add that, add the TV unit. I'm going to rotate it so we can actually fit it in the room. Add the TV. There we go. Rotate the TV, because right now we can actually put the TV off the edge, so we're gonna have to do a check for that as well. But right now it is as we select the TV, turn it on. System works the way it's designed to, so it's working that's the video. The next video we're going to go into further things, like we're going to talk about like how to fix the lighting, how to tweak the shadows, how we're going to make this UI look a little bit better than this current very, let's call it a blah design. It's very dull and very boring to look at. We're going to tweak all of this kind of stuff and make it everything, kind of bring the whole project together, bring everything together and make it work the way it's supposed to work completely. So, but we do have the core functionality for everything. We're able to place objects, we're able to move objects, we're able to rotate objects, delete objects. We have interactivity now based on the, sorry, that was weird and loud. So we now have the ability to enable and disable things. So based on this basic code, we can turn lights on and off, turn radios on and off. We could even have a little fan. We turn that object on. We can animate the fan. We can do a lot of really cool stuff with this base functionality. So thanks for watching, guys. I shall see you in the next video. Cheers.